Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield, this is Nathan Guerra, and this is the Zwiftcast. Coming up on this episode. Yes, we know we're late, but at last, our verdict on the Alpe de Zwift, and a word on the new climb from none other than the Zwift CEO, Eric Min. Now, Nathan and I had a late night last night, working on the KISS Crit Race finals, all the behind-the-scenes chat and gossip from that. And a factory tour from Madison, Wisconsin, Nathan's backyard, with Cyclops, makers of the Hammer Trainer. Well, hello, Nathan.
How's it going, Simon?
I'm tired after last night. I think maybe you are too.
We're already on camera again. Like, you're like, all right, we're rolling. And oh my gosh, here we go again. No, it's all good, though. I actually love it.
Yeah. It was a fantastic event, and we'll get more into that shortly. But man, it was pretty hard work, and we weren't even racing. Anyway, we are joined, not live, as you can see, because here's me and Nathan, but we are joined on tape by our favourite Aussie, one Shane Miller. G'day, mate.
I'm used to being pre-recorded, so this is just perfect for me. I'm all happy. How are you doing, Simon?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, actually. Climbing legs were deployed on the Alpe, and I got up there in just over an hour. We'll get to your time in a moment, but have you been up it, first of all, and what do you make of it?
Well, I must confess, I haven't been all the way to the top just yet. I got halfway the other day during a Llama lab test with some more equipment here in the pain cave, but I haven't been to the top. I've seen everyone's photos, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the challenge, but I'm only halfway there. So, yeah, my apologies to the Zwiftcast listeners. By the next Zwiftcast, I would have gone to the top 3 times.
What the hell have you been doing, dude? I mean, why have you not got to the top?
Actually, good point. Good point. Maybe we should reverse back a little bit there. Yeah, well, the climb did come out when I was in one of my favorite places on the earth, Disneyland, and I wasn't able to ride it. And then I've spent some time with family in San Francisco. I'm falling in love with California. I've spent nearly a whole month in the US already. Traveling California, I've been off the bike, which has been a good rest. I've been getting a lot of runs in, a lot of hikes in and things like that. So it just hasn't happened yet. And the weather here is unseasonably still warm. Right. So I've been making the most of that back home. So I can't think of any other excuses at the moment other than, look, let's be honest, I've just been lazy. I haven't been to the top.
Nathan, I do feel that our Shane needs to get his finger out and actually get up the Alpe. That's some admission from him that he's not managed it. And we've got some really interesting figures later on from Eric Min on how many Zwifters actually have done it. But you and I are amongst the ones who have. I was pretty chuffed with my time, actually, just a minute over, actually 48 seconds over the hour, which I was quite pleased about, actually. But you shot up it, mate, like a rat up a drain pipe or something similar. 45 minutes?
Yeah, 45 minutes. Got goals to be better, but not a bad time at all. I don't know. I always want better.
Yeah. Well, everybody always wants better.
I see some of the other times, and I know I'm not like the absolute best shape I could be in right now. I haven't been like training to get ready for a season really this season, so I've got other goals. There's some back chatter about like what we could maybe get done by the end of the summer, but I'm not going to throw any numbers out there because then I'm going to be held to an expectation.
But actually, I mean, I think this is a really interesting thing about the Alpe de Zwift. Actually, you go up it and you get a time, and you would totally immediately think to yourself, what could be my, how could I better that? What realistically would be my best time up that? I mean, I think I could get under the hour. Not by much, to be honest. Not unless I drop 5 or 10 kilos, which probably isn't going to happen anytime soon. But I think I could get to maybe 55, 56. I'd be pretty happy with that. What do you realistically think you could get to? I'm not going to hold you to it, but what do you think you could get to?
To hold a solid between 5.0 and 5.5 all the way up.
Watts per kilo.
Yeah, watts per kilo. That would be a goal of mine. And, if I were going to go for like my tip-top shape, and I think that would put me somewhere between a 40 and 42 or something like that. Yeah. Now, there is also, I was talking with Jordan Rapp a little bit, and when after he had done his back at Zwift HQ, and there is things you could do differently during the climb at the sharper ends of the gradients. When it really gets steep, those are the times that you lose the most time or gain the most time, actually. So there are things that you can tactically do during your effort to make your time faster, which is really interesting if you can figure out the best times to put in your biggest digs, and then where do you stay consistent. So it's actually this, it's actually a skill. actually, and it needs to be well thought out if you really want to get the best time up and over the top.
Yeah. The thing that struck me immediately about the Alp, and I don't want to whinge about this actually, in fact I hardly want to whinge at all. I've got one minor whinge, maybe two minor whinges about the Alp. I think it's an absolutely fantastic piece of work. I mean, I think Zwift have done an amazing job in getting a big climb into the game. They've done it brilliantly. But one thing, and just talking about times there, that struck me instantly, kind of like a thunderbolt, was I really, really want a Race My Ghost feature on the climb, or, you know, going against your personal best, which is a visible bot. I just think that it's absolutely crying out for that. Do you?
Yeah, I think being such a long effort like that, and unless you're with others that are around you that you can kind of race, I mean, it does kind of seem like going up the Alp, everybody just kind of sets their own pace. There isn't really much. I mean, it's such a steep gradient over and over and over again coming at you that it's going to be difficult to really stay as a pack unless you're with someone who's very right on your same level.
Yeah.
How other way are you going to get that? But just you as a ghost
racing
going up
yourself,
at the same level,
racing yourself
to the top.
I do think that would be just a brilliant. I mean, I'm sure they're going to add to the features are going to be added to the.
They actually said that some things didn't get in to this specific climb that are coming down the road, and I also think when we're talking about how you will tactically climb and when you put your efforts in, you can watch the ghost then and see where it made mistakes or where it excelled compared to what you're doing.
Yep. So if you're listening, John, we really would love that. We really would love that. But anyway, talking of senior people at Zwift, at the Kiss Crit finals last night, Eric Min showed up. He seemed to absolutely love what was going down. He had a huge smile on his face the whole time. And Nathan grabbed him for a chat, and we did actually talk a little bit about the Alp. And this is really interesting what Eric's got to say. Here it is.
It seems like it's really been a hit.
So the stats that I can share with you is about 35,000.
35,000 people
have gone up.
Climbed up to us.
But when we have Watopia available, on average, over 5,000 people climb. So it's like essentially a fondo every day that takes place.
Wow, and that's just, I mean, what was the release date? I mean, that's a pretty close release date.
It's a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it was just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, that is 35,000 people. That is a gigantic number.
So if you had asked me, would we build something like Alpe d'Huez 2-3 years ago, I would have said, no way. It just wouldn't be fun. We actually surprised ourselves. It is fun.
You know, there was a little bit of chatter on Zwiftcast. Simon was like, I'm not sure people are going to want to climb this thing. Are people really going to be going to it? Shane was, and I was like, I don't know. I think I was on board on that one. You know, was it a risk to put this huge climb in game, and will anybody climb it?
Yeah, I've done it 4 times already.
You're knocking on my door. Come on, Nathan. What am I doing, guys?
I know. Just recently, there was Everesting as well. So I think you'll see more calls. This won't be the last one.
You know, and there's all those achievements you got to be going for. That's got to be a little bit of carrot. Now, people are wondering, what's your best time up the Alp?
I think I did 54, and my goal is to get to 50. We have a number of fast riders at Zwift. I think someone clocked 45 or 44 minutes already.
I'm not. You know, I got a 45, but I think Jordan Rapp 37:58.
He's under 40.
Yeah, I think he was looking at me. He was like 37:58.
Yeah. But you know, he's a former professional triathlete, world champion. He has all the credibility.
Now, is there some competition in-house then a little bit at Zwift about who's going to get the faster times, or at least comparing?
I think so, but it's hard to beat Jordan. He is so fit at the moment.
Okay, and Nathan, finally on the Alpe d'Huez Zwift, I mean, make no apologies for talking about it extensively on this episode, even though we are a bit late with it. Sorry about that, but we have both been like super busy on other things. But the last thing on this, again, I think the clever thing about it, the selection of this actual climb, this like hour benchmark. I mean, it's useful in a couple of ways, really. It's useful for measuring yourself against. I mean, I know you're not measuring yourself against an hour, but I think an awful lot of people will be looking at how far under or over an hour they are. I mean, I certainly am. You know, an hour is a kind of big time for me. But also, an hour is a great time for a session. I mean, I can see people using this for workouts. I can see them using it as part of structured training.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, especially with how the gradients come at you, and then it kind of levels out a little bit, and then comes at you again, and then levels out again. You could do a great over-under session, you know, up the Alp for sure, as long as you're not like getting that candy out there, which is the very top, and you start thinking about what your overall time is going to be, and you ruin the session.
But you could even do it in erg mode. You could set erg mode up.
Yeah, you could do erg mode, and it is pretty beautiful as far as that goes.
Ready where it's due here. I think it's a bit of an inspired choice in terms of duration.
Yeah, for sure. And even if you're a new cyclist, a beginner cyclist, and you're doing it at say an hour 45, it's a really good benchmark to set, because that's something you can chip away at. It's that duration that'll, you'll lose sleep over it for sure. But if you can conquer your demons and get over the top of the KOM in an hour and a half next time, maybe an hour 25 in a few months' time, it's a really good benchmark to set. Some people really fear that 20-minute power FTP test, which I can't remember the last time I did one because I don't like them at all. But an hour, it's not too bad. You don't really cook yourself too hard. You can distract you. So I think you're on the money there, that it's long enough and hard enough to be something special, something people will test themselves against.
There isn't really any other motivation out on Zwift right now to just go do an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Where else are you going to get the motivation besides going out to a real life climb to just go, I am going to go and hammer myself for 1 hour up and over the top of this. As far as the training tool goes, it's like kind of my new go-to. You will see me going to the Alp pretty much every time I'm out on Zwift right now, essentially because there's that 25 carat and there's some new wheels as well, and some of those kudos and achievements in games. There's some objectives out there now to go after, so pretty cool.
Yep. Well done, Zwift. Well done, Zwift. We definitely approve of the Alp de Zwift.
Hello and welcome to Bespoke in London for the finals of the KISS Crit Series Europe.
We're here in London. We've made it.
They're going to be racing next to each other indoor. Is this the future?
Yeah, this event is amazing, and we see that indoor biking is not just about training anymore. It's about fun, and we see a lot more people joining, and I think a lot more people will join in the future.
They are off here right now.
These are some of the strongest female riders on Zwift.
One major factor tonight is going to be the live audience.
We're starting to hear a little bit of crowd out there. Can we hear the crowd a little bit, London? Make some noise. Now still leading it out as he makes her way to the line, still trying to make the chase. It's gonna be Baldy. You've got Cassie trying to make the chase, but Kristen Falk across the line was able to make it happen.
Is there gonna be a next one?
Well, absolutely, there'll be more of these for sure.
It's virtual power, but it's real life suffering. If you could see the faces live in the audience, as most can, they're dripping, they're soaking, they're panting, they're trying to get air down, they're trying to get the heart rate down.
Dempster! Oh no!
There's a gonna be!
Gosh!
What?
Dempster's gonna do it! It's Gavin Dempster! Oh my goodness, with the upset! A smile, the reaction! Gavin Dempster is your KISS Crit KEU champion!
Well, Nathan and I are together in London, and not as has been traditional on these occasions, when generally we're to be found in, like, squatting on a bed in a hotel room. We found ourselves...
There's a sleeping Lindsay in the background.
We found ourselves in rather a nice atrium in the hotel we were staying in last night, because we were both at the KISS Crit EU finals. The new format, I mean, we had prelims, which is not so new, and then we had elimination rounds. Now, the elimination rounds actually on the men's race were not quite as pivotal as they were in the women's race, I don't think, because a couple of riders, surprisingly big names actually, were off the back, so they were kind of eliminated automatically without there being a sprint for the elimination line. But those tweaks to the race format, they did seem to serve to animate the whole race. It was I mean, I know it was going to be a big race anyway because it was a grand final, but there was a lot of animation during the race.
Yeah, that's there was always action happening, you know, and so there is some feedback at Zwift from the community at times about racing just being about power, right? And so we made it about more than just power at the end, especially with the sprint. You know, especially on a crit series, that was one of the feedbacks that was kind of like, look, it's like everybody hangs out and waits for this unless there's a super strong rider that can get away. And so this made a situation where there were other objectives that people could go after throughout the race that caused everybody to have to respond. And those objectives also impacted the overall race because it might have caused a break, or it might have caused something to happen during the race, or somebody to have to use extra energy during the race.
With the Zwift boss, Eric Min, around and on hand, we thought it would be a crazy opportunity missed not to ask him whether the race features we saw might even make it into the game.
A couple of things real quick on the dev side of things. I know people will be wondering, they saw the eliminations, they saw, you know, that was in the points. Maybe something that we'd be looking toward more gamification toward this kind of thing with game modes and stuff in the future?
I mean, you can go from one extreme to something far more gamey. I think by just taking away some of the data that we make available to all the riders could just change the dynamics.
Yeah.
We can't accommodate 30 riders, but imagine if we had 6 teams of 5 and suddenly they can start, you know, coordinating and have real teamwork in the event. So there are a number of things that we are already thinking about, and of course, you know, equipment selection could be gamified. Drafting could be stronger in races, right?
Yeah.
So there are lots of things that we can do, and so this is all part of us just tweaking and experimenting. But you know, if you ask me, I think virtual racing and, you know, our version of esports has huge potential.
I mean, this raises a point, really. We're both very familiar with racing. Here's us discussing the kind of finer technical details of it. But how appealing do you think that event would be last night to your average Zwifter who doesn't race? So how appealing do you think it would have been as a spectator event?
Well, I mean, across the board, we had really good viewership both on Twitch and Mixer and YouTube and Facebook. So we had viewership, and it was people were hyped about it, and chat was going great. I had chats open the whole time, and I could see people constantly going off about it. There's definitely a strong base of viewership. Actually, there's actually a very, very strong base of viewership already in existence. You know, so it's coming and showing up. Like,
but I think they're the race viewers. I mean, if Zwift racing is going to be, or Zwift racing or virtual bike racing as an esport is going to be successful, it's got to pull in people who are not necessarily interested in racing or don't participate in racing. Do you think it's really capable of doing that, of pulling in a general audience?
The reason I think it is because it's immediately relatable to any individual.
Yeah.
So in order to understand cricket, when I go and turn it on here, I turned it off immediately. Sorry, guys, but I didn't understand anything that was going on. Yeah. Okay.
Well, not many people do understand cricket.
But this is to the point though that you watch this sport and immediately you understand. You pedal your bike and you go forward, and I think that's why cycling, along with a few other sports, I mean, football/soccer as well, very simple. You put a ball on the ground, kick it in the goal. You know, there's some things that are just universally going to go very easily to a mass market as far as the sport goes. And then also being able to have a controlled environment on the athletes as well, where you don't have to have a helicopter coming in and you know what I mean, so you can see what they're doing right in front of you and how it's expressing in game. So I think those two things match together because there's reality in the esports. Now here's a criticism of the esports side of things. When you put a camera, PIP, picture in picture, on an esports competitor, they're sitting there like this. Versus Tom Hargreaves last night going for that.
Most of the male racers, there were shots of them. I mean, this is a much overused word, but man, they were suffering. Yeah. I mean, there was some serious
So I think the relationship to people in a general audience is much more they can grab it a lot quicker than I think most. Then maybe some people would say that, would criticize it and say it can't go anywhere to mass market. I think there is a relatability for sure.
Shane, I know you poked your head into the CBR event in Los Angeles. Well, you were on your falling in love trip with with Southern California. The interesting thing I think about the CVR event this time was it garnered quite a lot of attention in what you might call the mainstream cycling press. They did very well on publicity, actually. It was on kind of Velo News and some of the bigger sites. And they were the PR man for CVR, I have to say, did a very good job, because there was a lot of enthusiasm around, is this the future of cycling on those mainstream sites? Because we've both been so busy, and I'm a bit late with this podcast, it has to be said, we've not really discussed CVR. I mean, what did you make of it?
Popping in there, it was really good to see them. Now, what CVR did over in London and Vegas was sort of a one race, one hit wonder. And they were really stressful being a competitor there, traveling so far for one race. And it's all on the line. But I guess that had a beauty to it as well. They then switched it up for Paris, and they had a multi-stage race. And they tried something very, very different. And I think it worked for Paris. So what they've done here in wasn't Long Beach, sorry, it was near Long Beach. It was in California there, in Los Angeles, was the same format as they used in Paris. So they weren't reinventing the wheel. They weren't inventing anything new. They were just sort of rolling out what they've done before successfully, but this time bringing along some superstars. So we saw Lionel Sanders there. That got a lot of attention. And look, we saw all the media hype about it. Look, the headline that I had a bit of a problem with was, is this the future of cycling? Well, it's not the future of cycling. It is a future of cycling for sure. Like cyclocross isn't going to take over the Tour de France or mountain biking or anything. It's a certain pathway. So with Zwifting here, as I now call it, it's a new discipline to cycling. CVR and this live esports side of things is definitely going to be there. But as for how successful it's going to be, well, I guess for the last year, we've been told and we've been reading all these presses saying, look, it's going to be the next big thing. It's giving it up to us on a plate. It's there. It's there to watch. The competitors are there. The competition is really good to watch and I guess to get involved with. But is it going to be as big as they're telling us? I guess that's up to everyone. That's up to the universe to figure out, I guess.
Anyway, that was the EU1. We're both headed across the Atlantic for the American version, which will be on Saturday. That both men and women, Nathan, that is a strong field.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
As you'd expect.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, they were really strong fields yesterday. Now again, I mean, this coming week is really going to be stacked. That's and it's going to be fun to meet all the racers. That's one of the main things is meeting. Yeah. I've met a few of them, but there's going to be some new faces though at some of these LAN events that'll be interesting to see how things go down.
Yeah. It was really interesting. Actually, we just had breakfast here, and I was on the next door table was the guy who won last night, Gavin. And he was still absolutely buzzing. He had this massive smile on his face. I mean, that win meant so much to him. Yeah, I could tell last night. He was probably one of the most ecstatic, actually. I think it was a huge build-up, and I think he was emotional about it, too. I think, I mean... Investment,
effort, investment is the best word there. Emotional investment, time investment, how much scheduling they've done in order just to get this done. And it was quite the build-up for him for that moment. That was great. If you get a chance to watch the replay, even of the last couple of minutes of particularly the men's race, no disrespect to women, the women's race was exciting as well, but the men's race was something else. If you can seek it out and find it, I think you'll find it a rewarding watch. The last lap was sensational. Okay, Nathan, well, we've got to discuss this. We've got to discuss it quite carefully, but we kind of owe it to viewers and listeners because as company watchers will know, there was a big kind of company conference, I suppose you'd call it. It was called an offsite where everybody involved in Zwift came together in California. Was it only a couple of weeks ago? It feels like longer, but I think it was a couple of weeks ago. And we kind of owe it to tell you a little bit more about it because there were pictures of us all over social media, including three of us sat on the back seat of a bus watching virtual bike racing like naughty boys, which I thought was quite funny. So we need to kind of report back on it, but we've got to report back on it carefully for reasons that I hope people will understand because we're under an NDA. I mean, we've signed a non-disclosure agreement. We can't give away commercially sensitive information, and you would expect that. It's only fair. But what I think we can do, Nathan, I think we can give a kind of general overview about the stuff we saw and how exciting
we felt it was, and I said that to Shane. I've discussed this with Shane, and we saw like a map for kind of the year ahead, and even me as a kind of grizzled old veteran of Zwift, I was really, really, really excited. And Shane, when I spoke to him, just seen that on tape, said a similar thing. What about you?
Yeah, I was really excited. You know, the most exciting thing, the thing that keeps on ringing in my ears is maybe not the roadmap as much, but just kind of like Zwift's aim, like what their aim is and the scope that they're after. I mean, I think Eric thinks big, you know, and dreams big. And I mean, I remember seeing in one of the presentations, it was like Facebook, Strava, YouTube, like these brands that were being pushed. Zwift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of like, you know, the online fitness app.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that is, and I think it's obvious that that's where Zwift
Where they'd like to
they're
go.
aiming. You know what I mean? And so I mean, we've got Zwift Bike, we've got Zwift Run.
Yeah.
Who knows what's coming next, kind of a thing. You know, so. And that's really exciting for me in a general sense to see gaming and fitness really meet, because that's always been my thing from the get-go.
But that's like company strategy, which is great. I mean, if you're a Zwifter, you want to be a part of something that's going to be bigger. But of course, what people probably who listen and watch the Zwiftcast session is the feature that I really, really want on the roadmap, and they're the kind of things that we can't really say, but we can say that the stuff that I saw on the roadmap, a lot of it is what the community's been asking for.
Yeah, there is a lot. There's a lot that's already been hinted at, I think, from inside too, that was in there, you know, and so there's things that we've hinted around here and there that was in there. There's some other surprises that I think will really be eye-opening a little bit to some of the riders, but at the same time they'll be really excited.
There's a few wow moments for sure, but I think every company really has to aim for the stars or shoot for the moon and land in the stars. What's the saying we read on little bits of wood in those craft shops? Yeah. Something like that. Look, there were some fantastic things, but I guess the hard part is truly delivering those, and also I guess management and investors agreeing to certain pathways they may go down or may not. Yeah, look, I've been a Zwifter for 3 years now, and I'm not giving up anytime soon. And I'm sure, from what we saw, I don't think anybody's going to be giving up anytime soon either, because there's some pretty cool stuff coming up. But there are some competitors chomping at their heels. Yeah. So Zwift have to invent. They have to reinvent what they're doing. I guess go down different pathways, keep it exciting. As we spoke about, gamify things, add some more missions, and just keep developing things, keep rolling ahead of the curve. They're riding a very, very big wave at the moment, as we've seen with the numbers on Zwift and the numbers climbing, the Alpe d'Huez climb and all that. There's huge numbers there. They have to stay ahead of that, because competitors will come along and look at that market and say, well, we want a piece of that pie as well. And what we saw in one of my presentations at the offsite was, what are the competitors up to? Or, what's the competition doing? Because I get to ride them all here in the Pain Cave. And there's a few little interesting things happening here or there, but what's on Zwift's timeline looks very exciting. And look, I can't wait to see that roll out. Look, again, I want it all now. I want it all to be able to ride it and enjoy it now, but we're going to have to wait, I guess, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you should raise the issue of competitors, because, as you say, that was the subject of your presentation, and very it was an interested audience that received it. My overwhelming impression after watching your presentation, and obviously, watching this area as I do very carefully and very closely, is number one, I absolutely welcome competition. I think anybody who rides bike indoors for at least part of the year must welcome competition. It's good. It's good for everybody. It's good for Zwift. Keeps them on their toes. It's good for consumers, because we all benefit from it. And we have said this before, but my overwhelming impression after your presentation was, if I had 10 grand to invest and I could choose any one of the three, I actually would not choose the competitors, because I just think they've got way, way, way too much catching up to do. And even if they do catch up, Zwift are then going to be like another 2 years ahead. I think they've got a tough proposition, even to be a good second. Do you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I share spot on your timeline there as well, the 2 years ahead or 2 years behind, depending on who you're looking at, because Zwift have really, well, they came out 2 years ago with a very solid product. Even Jarvis Island was still a pretty good little race loop, pretty good social group there, and things have just grown from there. So for someone to compete with Zwift, they need to be at that level to be even competitive with Zwift, or they need to do something extremely different with a massive value prop that's going to revolutionize indoor cycling. Now, we haven't seen much change. I mean, we've got erg mode, we've got sim mode, we've got a few different modes we can use on the Tax Neo trainer that does a few different things, but we need a lot more than just hardware and software combo to change things up and to really compete with what Zwift are doing. So yeah, as I said, I share the view of 2 years. A lot of the competitors are probably 2 years behind, but nothing's stopping them from reinventing the wheel, but they're going to have a hard time doing it. Anyway, it's all interesting to see. And the competitors that are out there, and I think they're all learning from each other. We saw with one of the specific competitors actually using some of the resources from Zwift, I think you'd call it. That's my opinion. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it's pretty conclusive from what I saw. I think, yeah,
Chinese copycats, Shane. Chinese copycats. Surely.
That'd be a phrase. That'd be a phrase. Yeah. But it's interesting to see. And look, one thing is there is a certain level that they all reach already. So they all change resistance with your trainer. Now, that was a big thing early on. They, trainer resistance or trainer compatibility. That's sort of at a certain level. All the 3D graphics are still pretty good. So now the differentiator is, the courses or the workout modes or the workouts. But I think the biggest asset Zwift have are the people. Now, it's the community. It's the 45,000 plus in Zwift riders. It's the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who have signed up at any stage of Zwift and know about it and tell their friends about it. And that's a massive, massive, powerful marketing engine that you can't pay for that. You just have to grow that and, hope that your product is still the best. And I'm biased. Look, I've got the Zwift posters on the wall, and I still drink the Kool-Aid. So, but always.
That's true. I mean, we're fanboys, and we've never made any bones about that. We do like Zwift, and we come at the podcast and kind of all of our interactions from that starting point that we do like the game, but we can sometimes be a critical friend, as it were. But going back to your point about people, and I think that's a really interesting point about people. It's not just the audience, actually, it's also the staff. Because they've now got 160 highly talented, highly skilled, highly specialized people. You can't recruit people like that overnight. I mean, you just can't.
Well, look, Zwift themselves can't recruit them overnight. They're still recruiting almost daily, I think. They're still growing that team and growing and growing. And we were even privileged enough to be invited to the team building games as well, which was kind of weird being sort of external, but being involved in how they operate and it was a bit of fun though. Come on, Simon, come on. We flew some paper planes
Shane, I don't do that kind of fun. Luckily, it wasn't touchy-feely. If it had been touchy-feely, I would have been out of there, let me tell you. But happily, it wasn't. It wasn't one of those team-building exercises. Yeah, I mean, it was.
Well, we were playing leapfrog in playgrounds, and I think they were singing songs to the FedEx guy. It was kind of weird. But one thing, and one really important thing of note that was just evident throughout the whole weekend there was that no matter where anybody in the company sat, they're all part of they're all a cog, I guess, in the bike. And no matter if they do the website testing or the programming of what we saw in your video, Simon, the little bolts on the fence there, all of those, any of those components don't work or don't gel together, it's going to be noticed. So yeah, it was really good to see the entire team and just the size of the departments as well. Seeing one thing that was fascinating is we sat down in the big room there, and all the different departments stood up, and all the managers introduced all their teams. Everybody knew everyone's name from their teams, and I guess some teams didn't know other teams because the company's getting that big, which is good to see. But they're all so important. So yeah, I would like to have gone around and talked to every one of them and thank them for what they're creating, because this thing's changing. It really is. And sometimes you get lost in a bit of that. If you're just testing a website, or you're just, you're loading a mobile app and it doesn't this way. But once you get that right, there's hundreds of thousands of people who are going to use that. So it's super important work they're doing from this level to way up high. So it's all good to see. And they're all really good people as well.
I hope we kind of found the balance there of not being like overly secretive about this event, because people did know that we attended it, but trying to give you a bit of an insight.
I don't think we even just said anything. We didn't say anything just now.
No. Well, we just spent 3 minutes not
we saw
saying
things.
too much.
Just so you guys know, we saw things.
Yeah, okay. Well, we've done our best with that one. We've done our best with that one. That's all I can say.
Okay, let's move on. Now, I do love a good factory tour, particularly of a factory that makes things for bikes. And I was lucky enough to get an invite and a great tour of the Cyclops factory in Madison, Wisconsin, just down the road from Nathan when I was in America, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago now. Anyway, here is my report based on that terrific factory tour of Cyclops.
I've done a few of these factory visits to trainer manufacturers now, and I'm always surprised at just how labour-intensive the process is. It's no different at the headquarters of Cyclops in Madison, Wisconsin.
Right now, we find the best way to build it is by hand.
Nate Dowse, manufacturing engineer at Saris.
It's a delicate piece of machinery. It allows the operator to get that hands-on feel and make sure things are right.
Getting it right sometimes means extraordinary measures. In the early days of the Hammer, the production team had to go for a ride on 2,000 different trainers.
Right when we launched Hammer, we did not have vibration measurement capabilities on our calibration stands. So product management, myself, and a few other unlucky volunteers, we rode just about the first 2,000 to 2,200 units that came off the assembly line.
Ah, the C word, calibration. It's ultimately what prevents the process being automated. Calibration depends on the control of variables, and there's just too many.
It's small variations in everything. It's the environment that we build in. You know, we're in Wisconsin. It ranges from ultra cold to 100 degrees Fahrenheit and 99% humidity. We try to keep the facility at a comfortable temperature and humidity, but you know, we do have those big variations. We have variations in components, and that kind of forces our hand on having to calibrate every single unit to ensure that we're within an acceptable accuracy for the customer.
At the heart of the Hammer is the casting, a single piece of aluminium that's brought into the factory and finished in a big, expensive-looking machine.
So we get the aluminum castings in from our supplier, and once we get those in, they need some kind of post-processing.
Eric Albers, product manager at Cyclops.
We're machining off the flats to easily mount the board on a nice flat spot. Flat spots to mount the resistance mechanism in the hammer. So really, we're just facing all those off. We're tapping the holes. We're making sure that the axle is nice and concentric. And then you saw we actually used the machine to press the axle in as well. So kind of a unique use for a machining fixture.
The Hammer has sold so well that Cyclops bought 2 of these babies, and they run pretty much 24/7. The other thing I like to explore on these company visits is to find out how the manufacturers predict and then meet demand. It can sometimes feel, for all trainer manufacturers, that winter takes them as something of a surprise.
We are manufacturing is just-in-time manufacturing, which means we get the order from the customer, and then our manufacturing team responds to that order. They build the order for, or build the product for that order.
What are the advantages of that as a company?
Response time. We're able to respond to orders very quickly, and the quality. So if things change, if parts change, or if we have a new firmware update, we don't have thousands sitting in a warehouse that have this old firmware on it. We're spitting that firmware out, sending that out almost immediately.
The industry as a whole does tend to get kind of caught out by winter. And by caught out, I mean not providing enough trainers for the consumer to buy them exactly when they want them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a delicate balance, and you know, with our just-in-time inventory, maybe it makes us a little bit more susceptible to some of those instances. But I'd like to think we respond pretty well to the market, and they're able to buy the trainers when they want them. But I know that's not always reality.
The company is extremely proud of its Made in America label.
It's very important for myself and for Ceres and Cyclops in general. And we say, a lot of times we don't just say made in America, we say made in Madison, which is Madison, Wisconsin here. We do a lot of our sourcing of products within 3 hours of Madison. So it's really impressive. I hope it matters to the consumer. You know, we put a lot of love into our products. They are hand built, every screw, every little piece. So I think that they see that as a quality product in the end.
Shane, back to you. I think we both think that after a bit of a kind of fallow year last year, Eurobike this year, which is coming up really, really soon because they've changed the date of it, is going to be a palace of sparkling jewels for people who like to ride their bike indoors a bit. And during that factory tour with Cyclops, I did do a kind of separate interview with Eric, and this is what he said about some of the factors that, some of the features and products he thinks might be coming out to increase the kind of immersive experience of cycling indoors. So here's Eric.
And what elements do you see going into immersion? I mean, movement we've already covered.
Sure.
Lighting is one. Steering maybe another.
Movement, lighting, steering. Maybe what about a fan control? You know, you have that feel of the wind. You know, as you're speeding up, slowing down, going down a hill. So there's all sorts of things. You know. A lot of companies still continue to play with virtual reality. I think virtual reality is a ways away, but I think that there's what's called augmented reality. I think that is could lend itself really well to indoor training. So it's a little bit more on the software side necessarily, but I think all these things combined are certainly possibilities for the market.
Shane, lighting, fans. I mean, fans might be hooked up, who knows, to the speed you're doing in games, something like that. Rocker plates. I mean, we know rocker plates are coming at Eurobike. You know, Wi-Fi control lights. I mean, we've seen John experimenting with those. Two things. I mean, one, I think Eurobike is going to be just like super interesting this year, and two, there's still a way to go, isn't there, for innovation around indoor cycling?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Palace and Jewels, and as a Disney fan, I've spent 2 full days in palaces and things. So if I can make my indoor cave here look a little bit like Cinderella's house, I'll be happy. I'm a secret Disney fan. But look, you mentioned fans themselves. and secret. Okay, everybody on the Zwiftcast knows, and on my social media channels. But speaking of fans, both you and I right now, if you're watching the video version of this, our fans are behind us. They're an integral part of indoor cycling, and also our lighting here. Again, it's another super important part. And if you can make that experience, or take away the boredom of just a fan blowing in your face, that's it, or a light that's just on and blasting. If you could, when things change is as good as a holiday. So if you can just even have your fan speed change, your lighting change based on even the music or something like that, that's kind of cool. It's good use of tech. Like we see with the rocker plates, it's bringing more of the outside in and people having a better experience. So look, again, I can't wait for Eurobike, and to see what's on the cards. Let's just hope it's not e-bike, Phil, because it's a lot of those e-bikes are creeping in.
Do you really don't like e-bikes? Do you? I differ from you on this. I mean, I'd never get an e-bike. Don't get me wrong. No, I wouldn't say never. When I'm 90, I get an e-bike because. And this gets to my thing about e-bikes. I'd rather be on a bike than not. I'd rather be on a bike than in a car. I'd rather be on a bike than almost any other form of transport. And if an e-bike kind of helps me do that, then I'm pretty cool with e-bikes. And also they normalize cycling. They take it away from this kind of, sort of you've got to wear Lycra, and they make cycling more of an everyday event. Anyway, that's my.
That's where I'm coming from.
That's my pitch for e-bikes. Can I not change your mind on them?
Look, having seen them I see them as utility bikes, much like a motor scooter. But you're never going to see one indoors here on the indoor trainer for me to push myself hard. You never talk about e-bikes and training or e-bikes and pushing yourself. I'm coming from an old school racing mentality of, it's all under your own steam. But I do see their point. And I tell you what, over in just around Eurobike there, the amount of people who had e-bikes and like just as utility bikes going to and from work, just cranking along, they're still turning their pedals a little bit, but that was phenomenal. But the speeds they get too, I was a little jealous of their speeds. But look, from me, from a training perspective, from a racing perspective, e-bikes, there's the UCI are scanning against e-bikes, aren't they? They're scanning for those motors to get rid of them. So not for racing or training, but I guess for going to school, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think we can agree as a point of compromise on that. Yeah, I agree with that. I would never use them for improving my performance, but I might use them to get from A to B in a slightly more comfortable manner, perhaps. Anyway, there will be e-bikes at Eurobike, because there always are. The Germans are obsessed with it. Anyway, Shane, just before we wrap up, in the Northern Hemisphere, there are signs of a little bit of a change here, and we can't really have a Zwiftcast without discussing the weather, particularly since we have this great global perspective. But in the Northern Hemisphere, it's like the never-ending winter. It's just bananas. And you've got, I understand, a kind of never-ending summer.
Well, I'm still in. Hang on, we've got still shorts and t-shirts here. Sorry, I might have been a bit too far from the mic to show my shorts, but look. We're living on borrowed time here, and I think it's just global karma. You guys are a bit colder. We're still a bit warmer. That's going to flip change very soon. I thought I was going to bring it back to the States with me, and it was going to be snowing here. Not quite yet, though. So I can't complain. It's nice and warm here. Still working on the suntan, but I think my Zwift cave is going to get a lot more work very, very soon.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't wish bad weather on you, but if you get bad weather, maybe we'll get some good weather. Who knows? It will be.
That's how it works, for sure.
Really, really fucking nice to get some decent weather in the Northern Hemisphere. Anyway, that's it, Shane. Thank you very much indeed for taking part. We're slightly disjointed with me and you in one place and me and Nathan in another place. I'm going to see how that works out in the edit. But anyway, I'm sure it'll be fine. Thanks very much, Shane. Great to talk to you as ever.
No worries. Thanks, Simon, and thanks to all the listeners.
Okay, well, here we are back in London. I'm getting on a plane tomorrow. You're getting on a plane this afternoon.
A few hours, yeah.
Yeah. I seem to have inherited 5 very large and heavy bags full of technical equipment to take back to Long Beach. So I'm looking forward to making my way through the airport with that, along with my own 2 enormous bags that I've got, one of which might or might not contain a bicycle. But anyway. But what I'm hoping when I get to California, and I hate to be terribly British and bang on about the weather, but I do think, Nathan, that this winter, it's great for Zwift. I'm sure they love it, because this winter has been like everlasting. And you were telling me when you got here, you showed me a weather map of Wisconsin, and there was another 2 foot of snow or something.
Yeah, there was snow. Yeah. You actually have Zwift riders littered with those weather maps that show the purple and blue and where it's snow and where it's not, and literally they're just covered with snow still in a lot of the northern hemisphere. So it's, I think, what's interesting is I've had snow in May for mountain bike races, but it was like a one-off, you know what I mean? But this is consistent. We haven't had a week of warm and then it's back.
Yeah, there's just been no sign of spring at all. The weather forecast certainly for the UK for the upcoming week is a lot better, it must be said. But where are we? Middle of April. It's like spring. Where are you?
Yeah.
It'd be really nice to see you now.
Investors do have just a weather dial. Yeah. They actually just so you guys know, there's a Velo Laminati that actually just is going like this. They own Zwift, and they're just turning that dial correctly. You don't know how much power they actually have.
Well, you've got to say it is good news for Zwift, and only you don't need to look in Zwift riders to see how many people are still riding indoors and really actually wanting to be at least doing a bit outdoors, and that's the same for me. I am yearning now to get out. I really am.
Weirdos who ride outdoors. I don't know who these guys are. Who rides outdoors? No.
I ride outdoors. Yeah, I do, and I am looking forward to getting back outdoors. Anyway, I'm also looking forward to getting across to California, where I might squeeze a ride outdoors in, hopefully, in between preparing for the American Crit Finals, which are coming up on Saturday. We'll both be there. You will be doing another sterling commentary job. How did you keep your voice going last night? 4 hours. Could you just give me one sec?
Oh.
Okay. So we just got interrupted by a very nice gentleman from security, actually, just checking, from the hotel management, just checking that we have permission, which obviously we do, don't we? So I think we better wrap this one up. Okay, so I'll see you over the pond, Nathan.
Yep. Getting ready for some more commentary. I'm super excited for it, and I can't wait to see all of the Zwift community that's showing up.
Yeah. And how did you get through your voice yesterday? 4 hours.
It wasn't too bad. I've done, you know, I think like my voice muscles are stronger than my leg muscles at this point. So, you know, we've done WBR 24, we've done nationals. I mean, those were some big events.
4 hours.
That wasn't that big. Plus, I just could just throw it to you or Rebecca. Hey, Simon, we need to get off of me for a little while. So no, like it's a little different, and with that kind of commentary, you actually have so much more space to be very creative. Whereas at my home studio, it's you don't stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just you got to just be the host the whole time, which is way different than what we're doing. Yeah. It has more pressure and it has a little bit more going on, but that almost like adds to the creative process in the moment, which is really nice.
Yeah. Well, I think we better wrap it up now because he's still hovering. Okay. Thanks very much for watching or listening. See you next time.